So let's talk about the A-Group Nubian people. Let's talk about the history of ancient Nubia. And we've been talking a lot about ancient Nubia lately, and I've been sending out a lot of videos about it, just talking about it. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the A-Group Nubian people, if you will. And this is a designation that was given by an archaeologist named George Reisner. He was someone who was doing excavations in the Nubian area, in the Nubian desert, in the Sudan and Egypt back in the 1900s. So he was a part of the MFA, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. So he was doing excavation there. And the name A-Group is something that was assigned to this particular culture that is in Nubia. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's dig into them because we want to know who are some of the ancestors of the Nubians, or who are some of the people who were inhabiting this area, before pharaonic times, before there was a Kemet that was united from the two lands, before there was an ancient Kemet as a country. And a lot of times what you will see is that what we find is that a lot of the pieces of the culture of ancient Kemet and of Nubia are very old. These things are very old, and they predate a lot of the things we talk about now. We like to put a point in time and say this was the time when ancient Kemet started. It was with the first dynasty. But a lot of the iconography, a lot of the religion we see goes back much earlier than that time. And even before some of the A-Group Nubians, it goes back farther than that. And we talked a little bit about Napta Playa and some other places where there are other people doing things that become significant in the Nile Valley and become a part of either the religious ceremony or the iconography or practices of people in this area that date back many thousands of years and just many years before the time we like to put in the sand, if you will, and say, this is the start of Kemet, this is the start of this culture. But, that being said, we'll talk a lot now about the Nubian culture and the A-Group. And as I mentioned, this was a name given to a group of people by an archaeologist from the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston when he was doing his excavations there. And the people here, much of what we know about the A-Group Nubians, much of what we know about this group of people comes from their funerary, from cemeteries, because we were able to find burial grounds and burial places and find information about them. You find a lot about people from their burial practices and what they buried with them, because as you know, in the Nile Valley in general, a lot of material, a lot of artifacts and devices and things were left with people when they passed away, and it told you a lot about those people. So this information came a lot from cemeteries and burials from Kubania, right here right above the first cataract in what is today Egypt, all the way down to around the second cataract in just the northern part of Sudan. So we see that this A-Group stretches at least this far, because you can see burial sites, and you can even see a major burial site around here, around Qustul. You'll see a major burial site around there where you can find a lot of information. So this A-Group, as I mentioned, spanned this part of what is the Nubian desert from right around the first cataract down to about the second cataract of the Nile. And when you look at some of the ancient accounts for the geography of what would become Kemet later on, what would become Kemet, that this area right here is the southern border of the boundary of Kemet, if you will, the traditional southern border. It appears that this A-Group, and even with Kubania, is just above that. So they would have been in the boundaries of the ancient Kemet, of the upper part of ancient Kemet, and the very southern part of it, at least according to where the burial sites have been found, and according to what we know about Kemetic boundaries back in the day. So what types of things did we find, and what types of things did we find out about this A-Group culture and these A-Group people? So the people here in Nubia, and this is an example, they were very highly skilled, very high technicians, especially when it comes to pottery and different things they would use with their hand. And this is an example of a bowl that was found in Upper Kemet. So it was found in the southern part of Egypt in Upper Kemet, and it was found in a grave. And this is a Nubian bowl. This is a Nubian style bowl. One of the things you see these alternating patterns right here. You see like red polish, and then these kind of zigzag patterns that are impressed. And this was a distinctly Nubian style. So they're not sure whether or not this was an Egyptian who was copying Nubian styles, and this was how this bowl got there, or was this made by a Nubian and it was, given to this person or used by this person. So we're not sure if it was made by a Kemetic person or made by a Nubian person, but this is a Nubian style bowl found in a grave in Upper Kemet. And it dates to about 3500 BC to 3300 BC. So this is 3,500 years before Christ. This bowl is here. And so you see this connection with Nubia and Nubian art, even in Upper Kemet, in an Upper Kemet grave. And one of the other things you find is when you look at Nubian graves, even further south, you will see Egyptian artifacts. You'll see Egyptian items that were uniquely Egyptian, that had Egyptian marks, if you will, or telltale designs. And you will find that in Nubian graves as well. So there clearly seems to be, based on the archaeological evidence, that there was trade between these groups. And you can even find trade beyond. You even see some in Asia Minor, you even see some items that were found in Nubia in this A group that were from even outside of Kemet, so from Asia Minor as well, some Asiatic pottery and that type of thing. So it's clear that these people knew each other, that they were connected, they were traveling up and down the Nile. At this time, they had boats, they were using boats, they had barges, and there was trade and there was intercourse and intersection and interactions going on between these A-Group Nubians and the people who would found Kemet as well. So we see that. Another thing that was found, another archaeological excavation, if you will, was done. A major excavation was done by the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago. And they found many things, a lot, just a bunch of artifacts. It's not just this one thing, but this is the most famous item that they found. This is the most famous thing. And this is the incense burner that was found at the cemetery at Qustul. So right around here, this is where this incense burner was found. Well, this was a place where there were several cemeteries. And one of the largest cemeteries, they named Cemetery L. And in Tomb 24 of Cemetery L, they found just a huge cache of pottery and resources as a part of this grave in this tomb. And one of the things they found was this remarkable incense burner. And this isn't the only one that was found in this cemetery complex, but this incense burner. And on this incense burner, you can see clearly three boats, three barges that are there, three boats. And it has some distinctive iconography that's used later on in ancient Kemet as a customary part of what pharaohs would use to depict themselves. So this has three barges in it. It also has what appears to be a ruler sitting with the white crown of Upper Kemet. So he's sitting there and there's a processional going on and he has the white crown of Upper Kemet and there's somebody they're taken to a palace that it's like a palace facade that's on this incense burner. And this is remarkable because this is 3,200 BC to 3000 BC. This is pre-dynastic Kemet, most likely pre-dynastic Kemet. This is before a lot of the iconography was set into place from the area in the country that we would call Kemet. And it's a remarkable thing. And a lot of people will talk about whether or not does this mean that Nubia started Egypt, or was this just a copy? Was this something that somebody in Nubia copied and it wasn't really a Nubian thing? They were just copying, some Egyptian types of things, and this what this was. So, we got to look at the evidence and look at what they found. Much of what was left there now is underwater. It's under because of the Aswan Dam. It's underwater. But what they found and the artifacts that they have at the Oriental Institute at the University of Chicago has a lot of information to it. So when you look at this, their analysis of it, this incense burner is distinctively Nubian in form. It's carved in the technique of Nubian rock art. It's decorated on the rim with typical Nubian designs. It was found in the tomb of a Nubian ruler at Qustul, and it incorporates images associated with the Egyptian pharaohs, like a procession of sacred boats, which is very important, the white crown of Upper Egypt, the falcon deity, and a palace facade called a Serek. So when you look at this is clear Nubian technology, Nubian piece of artifact that's using iconography that was then later on used in ancient Kemet, eventually will be used in ancient Kemet. So what it says to me, so did the Nubian culture develop and create the Kemetic culture, or did the Kemetic culture develop the Nubian culture? What it says to me that there was definitely shared ideas amongst them. And I think, in my opinion, I believe that a culture older than this, created both of them, gave birth to both of them. If you start to study some of the stuff at Nabta Playa and even earlier than that, I believe there's a lot more information, probably on the Aswan Dam, or just there still, that can actually be excavated now that's not covered up, that would give more information about the people in this area. But I wanted to recognize it this day and just talk a lot about the A-Group and the Nubian culture and just give some references here. If you'd like to read more, certainly feel like reading more and visit the University of Chicago site and read the information for yourself. But I really think it's important to know that the Nubian culture, the Nubian people have a culture and a respect and a tradition all their own that we should respect.